Let's do it. Okay. Hey, how's it going over there? Can't wait to have this chat with the Mac. We've been emailing with her for years, but now we finally get to talk to her. This is so great. We're here for it. All right.
Dr. Knutson was emailing Mackenzie. I don't know about that.
Oh. Oh yeah.
We, but it's the royal we.
The
He
royal
includes
we.
himself in the
Yeah.
Gomers, on the Gomer team.
Yes.
Okay, here we are in the block. Special guest, Mackenzie. Now we have a long history with you, Mackenzie.
You do.
And I would say it started with making fun of your name.
Yes.
It's like it must have been like when we would have like pre-Patreon, when we would do like specials and people would give and we would promise to read their names
That's
out
exactly
loud.
right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I can't believe I remember that right.
That's
and when we
impressive.
saw your last name, which is spelled Weibe,
Mm-hmm.
of course, we pronounced it Weibe.
Of course.
Weibe. Z Captain V Weibe from Indiana Jones and partner to the Last Crusade.
Right. Which is I mean, that section doesn't date. I mean, it doesn't age very well because what it means is it's a Nazi making fun of Indiana Jones, right? Saying, haha, the Americans, they fight like women. The Amerikaner, sie kämpfen wie Weibe.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess he's a Nazi, so it can be forgiven.
Exactly. Right. I'd say so. I never took offense. That was always pretty awesome.
Great. So that was like part of Gomer lore for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you would comment or give or whatever, we would make sure to mention your name because we thought we were hilarious.
Weibe.
Yeah.
Weibe.
But then then you're part of the Gomer lore because you helped us make the 10th anniversary episodes possible.
Yes. I loved doing that. That was just such a privilege. And I still listen back to those sometimes. And oh my gosh, your reactions were just priceless to those clips. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because
fantastic.
We were trying to figure out how do we listen to these clips fresh?
Yeah.
And so because it was 3 or 4 clip shows for the 10th anniversary episodes. And so I can't even remember how it worked. We collected people's favorite clips and then we sent you it was so convoluted, but somehow you were able to listen to them, tell us when they were, and then we were able to find them by timestamp and listen to them fresh on those episodes.
Yeah, it was neat. I was actually off on maternity leave at the time. So I had this like 3 and 4 month old, and it was a great way to pass the time, is just listening back and trying to collect these stories or portions of the podcast that the audience was really wanted to hear again and hear your reactions to that were really special to them. So yeah, so it was really fun.
And I think we just played one of those on the Code Brown episode. You haven't heard this yet, Mackenzie.
Okay. Ooh, I'm excited.
There's a Code Brown episode.
Is it the one on the bridge?
Oh boy.
That was a good one. That was so good.
So it's us current day. Is this what I haven't heard it for a long time? You edited, Anthony. So isn't it us current day listening to us on the 10th anniversary episodes, listening to the clip that you found us?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So there are six Gomers.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Right. We make that joke. You took it right out of our mouths.
I can't wait.
Yeah, we put a trigger warning at the beginning of that episode, and also, so I don't know who's going to listen to it. And then I think people may throw up laughing. It's so ridiculous, this episode, dude. I was editing it the other day on a plane, dude.
Wow.
On a plane
from
Oregon. No, from Phoenix.
Oh,
and
right.
Dude, I was like, I looked super dumb, dude. So I've GarageBand out. I've got my ginger ale, my pretzels, and then I'm like laughing my butt off, dude.
Wow. They'll throw up either because it's so disgusting or because it's funny. We'll see.
That's kind of what I meant. It's like,
yeah. Just can I tell you a quick story about something that happened to me on the plane with laughing? I was masked, and I was on the plane, and I was sitting next to this really sweet old lady, and I was listening to a podcast, a comedy podcast, and I was laughing, and so I guess I was like going like like that, And she puts her hand on my shoulder and says, "It's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay." She thought I was
Aw.
crying.
That's so sweet.
So I just said, "Thank you." That was that. But I don't know. Laughing on planes is weird, I guess.
Yeah, I cry on planes too, dude. Have you
Oh,
ever
for
cried
sure.
on a plane, Mac? Is it
Oh,
okay if
yeah.
we call you Mac?
Yes, please do. Yes, I've cried
Okay.
on many a plane. I don't know. You're always like, coming home from visiting family, or there's
Right.
always been some sort of really impactful experience. And yeah, there's always some tears on a plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, like it could just as well have been me crying. So that's why I didn't correct this old lady. Because 10 minutes later I could have been crying.
100%.
All right. But then we are speaking of present day. In the present day, Mac, you are back in our lives.
Yes, I'm back.
You sent us an email. Let me see if I can find this email. I remember what it was called.
Ooh. Shoot, I had it just on the top of my email as well, duder.
Why I see now, because all
Diet
those
culture
we all
is bad.
Yeah,
No,
or like
I
dude,
think it
stop
was
dieting. I
that
think
was it.
That
Dudes,
was it.
comma, stop dieting. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out if there was a exclamation point.
I can't remember. I've kind of gone away from exclamation points a bit. So,
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
maybe not.
Is there a reason for that?
I use them quite liberally for the past, I don't know, 10, 15 years.
Okay.
And sometimes I feel like I use them a bit too much. So
Got it.
yeah. Yep.
Oh, so you'll be
my
happy
punctuation.
to know.
Yeah.
You'll be happy to know that it was a period.
Oh, good. Okay.
Dudes,
Nice.
comma. It was like it's a full sentence. That's a complete sentence, right? Or it's a
It
command,
is.
I guess. Dudes,
Yeah.
or an invitation. This feels more like a plea.
A command.
Yeah. Dudes, stop dieting. You sent this to us at the beginning of December 28th.
Yeah. I sent it in the middle of me listening to the fast food finale of 2021.
Oh, wow. Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I re-listened to that the other day just to
did
refresh.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Oh wow.
Got it.
Yeah, I did.
So the thrust of this email, I would say, I think that's a pretty good verb for it, was that you have been with us for a long time.
Yeah.
Following our journey.
Mm-hmm.
And you have noticed in the past year or so, as you've been on your own journey, that a lot of it has revolved around our relationship to food, and in particular, different diets. And then you say, what I want to recommend. So this is a recommendation. What I want to recommend is to stop dieting. And then an invitation, which was, I'm not sure you're open to talking about this, but here's some book recommendations. I read Intuitive Eating, the Tribble book. Is that how you pronounce the name?
Yeah.
In response to that. And then I just couldn't get the email out of my mind.
Okay.
And so I emailed you back with an invitation to come on the podcast and just talk to us about it. I'm wondering if you could maybe unpack a little bit more for us why. I mean, you don't know us. Like I said, we have a very we have a relationship, but it was all on email and stuff like that.
Yes.
What did you feel like? Why did you feel like you wanted to send us that email?
Okay. So like you said, I had at that point been on my own anti-diet journey for just over a year.
Okay.
And I listened to that particular episode, and there are a couple of things that really stood out. So the first thing, and so just to kind of recap, that episode was at the end of your fast food fast of 2021, right? We had cut out the big 4 fast food restaurants. And I got the impression that one of the reasons you cut them out was because you were kind of scared of maybe how much you ate at fast food, or the lack of control you felt around fast food. And also that you wanted some sort of silver bullet, I think you said, to create a perfect bod.
Well, yeah, that's
I mean, who doesn't, right? Tron bod, exactly.
Yep.
And then Stephen, you asked a specific question, and this is when I paused the episode and wrote you that email. You said, when will I be holistically healthy without having to cut stuff out? I can't just live the rest of my life on monthly challenges.
Okay. All
And
right.
so while I don't often, I try not to give people advice or give people recommendations, especially not like uninvited. But I took that as a bit of an invitation just to slip this in, to see maybe you might think about looking at anti-diet stuff.
Because I asked the question.
Yes.
Right. And so you felt like maybe I'm trying to think if it was rhetorical.
And maybe it was.
Like you're asking the ether, like, Romeo, when will one day
or if it's like a why God moment, right? Like out of
Yeah.
frustration.
Yeah.
But I mean, I really can't fault you for saying, okay, he asked, and so I'm gonna answer.
And I hope that's okay. And I hope
it
you
is.
didn't take offense. Okay.
No,
Okay.
and I think what I was saying because Anthony always taught and I always talk before an episode, I was just like, I mean, the thing that I'm impressed by this whole process, even you coming back to us after we'd let it go for a while, it always felt like it was out of a response to what you sensed we were looking for.
Yes.
That it didn't feel unsolicited.
Okay.
And also it was really kind. The first thing you said in this email, Dude Stop Dieting, was, first, let me emphasize that I love you guys in your podcast, right? So whenever that's the first sentence, I'm like, uh-oh. But
no. Yeah, there's the but.
Yeah. But it was never like, you guys are doing something. It never felt like it was, I don't know the word for it, like you were scolding us.
Okay. It wasn't
good.
a rebuke. It wasn't.
No, right.
Like,
yeah.
Okay. I'm glad that
so that
came
should
across.
that should be good news to you.
Yes,
or else we probably wouldn't have had you on the podcast if it felt like that. We've had rebukes.
Okay.
And there's no way we would have those people on the podcast.
Okay, that makes me feel good.
So it was helpful, I think, the way you phrased it. And like you're saying, I asked the question and you were basically just responding. Maybe this would help.
Right. And I have a couple disclaimers, but my first disclaimer is, after we've talked about this, if you are not interested at all, or you're whatever, you think it's a bunch of hooey, like, feel free to just do your own thing. Everybody's got their path. You just do whatever works. But this is just another option, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So the invitation was to stop dieting.
Yes. Yes, it was.
The recommendation was to read this book about intuitive eating.
Yes.
Tribble, you said?
Yeah. Evelyn Tribble.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's nerdy in and of itself. Trouble with Tribbles, the best episode of Star Trek, the original series. Right.
Yeah. I wonder if we will have some trouble with this Tribble.
It's possible.
Is this a Tribble?
Can you just, the other thing that stood out to me in this initial email was the way you signed off. Cheers, Mackenzie, in parentheses, a longtime listener. You remind us again that you like us, who has gone through an anti-diet journey this past year and feels so much better for it.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if you can walk us through what that means a little bit.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'll maybe start with my dieting journey before I go into my anti-dieting journey, just so we've, it may kind of make sense. We've got context. Yes. So I have been dieting for probably about 25 years, and like since my early teens. And I think that's honestly pretty common. In terms of my family, I know lots of people have family histories of folks who were dieting. Their, family culture, I guess, was sort of that of a diet culture. And that was the case, not with my mom, but with my dad. So he kind of struggled with his weight on and off throughout my childhood and teens, and he would do Weight Watchers kind of on and off. So I saw that journey and would eat a lot of, the Weight Watcher food, the rice cakes and the chicken breast crusted with cornflakes and those kind of, those classic Weight Watcher recipes.
Yeah.
And then, so I've tried like every diet. I've done Weight Watchers as well. Calories in, calories out. What else? Low carb, low fat, cabbage soup diet, all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's yeah.
Is that
Oh,
you
yeah.
just eat cabbage soup?
Okay, so you make this cabbage soup. You only eat cabbage soup for like the first couple days, and then on day 3 you get to eat cabbage soup and bananas.
Ooh, yeah.
I know. And then
Cool.
day 4 it's like
Yummy.
cabbage soup and steak. So it's just like weird combinations, and you do it
Okay.
for a week. Anyway, obviously it doesn't work.
Mm.
So what would happen is I diet, you lose a bit of weight, and then after the diet is done, you gain it back, and then usually a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, as people do, like, this is just, I'm a terrible failure at dieting. Like, oh man, I suck.
Yeah.
Why is this happening? And so after experiencing that for 25 years or so, it wears on you, right? I started to get so tired of this. Like, is it just me, or is it something with the dieting where it's not really designed to work? So those ideas kind of started percolating. And I started to do a little bit of research into intuitive eating and figuring out what that is. And I thought, maybe like I'll give this a try. So yeah, it was in the fall of 2020 where I started in earnest to do intuitive eating and to just stop dieting. So I remember talking to my husband about this, how I was going to get into it. And I said, my goal in this journey is not to lose weight. And he said, that's the first time I've ever heard you say that.
Wow.
And so that was a really profound experience. And I'm like, yeah, this is the first time that is my goal, right? So when I embarked on the journey, like I didn't do intuitive eating perfectly. I did kind of a mishmash of a few different approaches I saw. So I basically just stopped restricting. I ate whatever I wanted. In some approaches, this is called the refeeding period.
Okay.
It's kind of amazing because you literally just eat whatever and how much ever you want.
So I also think this is funny that this was in the middle of our lose 20 and 2020 season.
I know.
Which was
sort of perfect.
Completely based on diet restriction, basically. And which we had varying degrees of weight loss, but mostly tension. I don't know, Anthony, if you do you remember 2020 and how that felt?
Dude, well, I just remember feeling, what was it, like October-ish?
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I'm out, dude.
Yep.
Because the dumb scale thing and a season being based on a number, and then the number plays into your like identity and like our friendship, and like it all started as like kind of just a challenge, right, for each other. Like
fun,
our heart was in the right place for the most part.
For sure.
But then the tension came when it's like when the scale is going to define an episode, and like you're just thinking about numbers and calories all the time.
Yeah.
Feeling guilt and shame. I mean, for me and Steven having to come and talk about it on the podcast,
it's a public thing.
That's hard.
Comparison was really big, I think, for us. I mean, I am just remembering this right now as you're talking, when you said 2020. I'm just remembering that we had a whole year on that. I mean,
wow.
I don't think we go back and delete that after this episode. This is part of our journey, but it's just reminding me maybe of the things that you're talking about, the ways that dieting and diet culture, right? I mean, that's what it's a lot about.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ready to say that it's completely bad, because this is pretty new to me still, but I feel like it's pretty easy for me to look back at October, November of 2020, Anthony, when you and I were just like, am I exaggerating? Like, this is coming in the way of our relationship.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, a little bit.
Yep.
And Anthony, just the things that you were saying, like the guilt and the shame and the comparison that comes with dieting and really focusing on those numbers, it can be really harmful, right? As you guys know, totally. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it starts to make you think about food. Well, it starts to make you think about everything you put in your mouth as like bad.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Like
exactly.
And that's like really friggin' sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and one of the things I kind of had to get beyond is that labeling of foods as good or bad, like putting a moral label on foods.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the anti-diet things is that food is neutral. Like chocolate cake equals chicken breast equals celery equals a protein shake. Like it's all just food. It doesn't have a value really, or it doesn't have a moral standing. So that was really interesting to learn about. Yeah, food is just morally neutral.
Well, yeah. So you chimed in around the time where we were, like, when I looked back through all the emails we've gotten from you over the years. One you chimed in was after the Health Halo episode. You were like, I just had to turn it off.
I did.
Right?
It took me like 3 months to listen to that episode because I was so triggered.
I mean, if there's an episode where we label foods as morally bad or good, it's that one for sure. There's a whole episode based on that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
it also is kind of a fun episode. But
it's hilarious. Yes, for sure it is. But yeah, it's very labeling.
We were more talking about how corporations are tricking us, right?
Right.
That was kind of the thrust of that.
Absolutely. And that is true.
As I was thinking about that and the Health Halo after you email us about that, I was like, I think it sort of works if we had done it differently, which is corporations know our horrible relationship with food.
Yes.
And so they make up words and lie to us to play into that moral value stuff we do with food.
Right. Exactly.
We weren't there in that episode. I feel like I'm understanding it a little bit more now.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, they're going to capitalize on that. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, so things like the food labeling, counting things, like you mentioned, Anthony, just being aware of every single thing you put in your mouth, how many calories it has, grams of carbs or fat or sugar or whatever, counting all the calories and then having to plan, your meals in your day and how many calories do I have left. Like it takes up so much mental space and energy. It's completely exhausting and you have to be like hyper vigilant. And I was just sick of that too. And so after stopping restricting and stopping counting, I also found that I had so much more mental space and time to focus on other things. And that was really cool as well. Okay. Yeah.
Can you describe intuitive eating a little bit more?
Yes.
I think we've used that term a couple of times, but so if it's not dieting, the alternative that I think the anti-diet movement, would you say, it is presenting is this thing called intuitive eating instead of dieting. Can you help us understand that a little bit more?
For sure. And so, intuitive eating, like you say, is definitely one way to go in an anti-diet movement. There are other ways, but for intuitive eating, there's a few, I guess, principles that you can follow. So they're basically wanting you to just like listen to your body, like figure out your hunger cues and your fullness cues, and generally eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. But sometimes if you eat when you're not hungry, like that's fine. So it's a mixture of honoring those cues, but also being like forgiving to yourself. If you need to, have a snack to make yourself feel better, in a day, that's totally fine. And just, so making peace with food, like we talked about, like not assigning that moral value to food, figuring out what sorts of food make you feel satisfied and why. Like, do foods with higher fat contents give you more satiety? Well, yes, they do, right? Foods with more protein make you feel fuller longer. So just thinking about that when you're eating, in addition to just what tastes great. I guess having a healthy relationship with movement is another part of it too, which would be really good to talk about. Physical movement. Yeah.
Okay.
So part of diet culture is, I guess, being really focused on burning calories through movement. And so to be able to step back from that and just move, in a joyful way, in a way that makes your body feel good for however long it makes it feel good. That's kind of part of intuitive eating as well. And then another principle is to just practice gentle nutrition. So you don't have to be like, so I guess you don't have to be like 100% healthy eating, healthy in quotations, eating all the time. Be kind of gentle with yourself if you have, a really big meal, or one day you just feel like eating an entire tub of chocolate ice cream, or you go to McDonald's and get whatever. Like, just be forgiving to yourself. Like, it's okay. One meal is not gonna kill you.
Yeah.
Sure. That might be one of my favorite parts so far, actually, because I think, looking back on the 20 and 2020 season, kind of like the negative self-talk, like all the time, like, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing, like, I think that grace for self is like that. I don't know. That really rings true for me. 'Cause I mean, I know, like, I've talked about on the podcast a bunch of random times about how, the fast food addiction and eating sort of like secretly, like we talked about that with our friend Brett in the addiction episode, is like, you do all that stuff in secret, you pay cash, you throw away the evidence at the gas station. And remember, you eat with the other 5 dudes. Like,
you vacuum up shredded lettuce.
Yeah. So there's that. I'm kind of weighing these two things. Okay.
And I want to say something about that when you're done.
Okay. Let's say something then, because then I want to say the other side.
Okay.
I'm thinking in my head too.
So what I hear you saying is you're talking about a fast food addiction. And so, is it addiction, or is it because you're restricting fast food? Like binge eating, in quotations, emotional eating, in quotations, food addiction, all of that is due to restriction. So when you take away that restriction, you're just going to you're able to eat as much as you want. And then eventually, as you're listening to your body, you get to the spot where you're like, I only feel like fast food once in a while. And that's okay. When you're refeeding, maybe you go to McDonald's every day for a week, and then you realize you feel terrible. So then you pare it down, right? So so part of it, restriction is always part of it. So once you get rid of the restriction, the rest follows.
So that's, as I read the book, and then I was kind of refreshing myself before, I was realizing that concept of restriction being the working against you in your journey toward health and better eating and more healthy relationship with food feels pretty bedrock to the whole to all of this, right? Like, it's
absolutely.
So I will confess to you right now, I can't see that working in my life, to remove restrictions.
Really?
Oh
no, I don't think so. Like, how can that possibly work if I was able to eat McDonald's every day? Or like, there's just something like, and I'm a rules guy.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So this,
well, you're
really
also a 7, bro. You're like, right? You're pleasure driven 7, right?
I know, but that's the way I feel like I'm able to. I don't know. I'm struggling a little bit with it. I hope that's okay.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. This is difficult stuff.
And so it's helpful for me to hear. I listened to an interview yesterday, Anthony, that you sent me a podcast about a woman that's been doing this, and so it's helpful for me to see you in front of us right now, Mac, as someone who's saying it works.
Yeah.
Or it's worked for you, because if I think of a life without food restrictions, this is just personal. Is it fear, or is it like, I just know that immediately I would go to my pantry and eat 2 sleeves of Oreos. We're going to McDonald's tonight.
Yeah.
Like, how
Maybe
can that possibly be true? That not restricting anymore would actually help me with my
because
health.
okay, once you refeed yourself and then you kind of plateau to like a steady state, and you're really honoring your hunger and fullness cues, you're doing that really gentle nutrition, you're probably not eating 2 sleeves of Oreos before going to McDonald's. That's the point where you get to.
Okay.
And you're supposed to reach this sort of set point of your weight. And let me tell you, even as I was refeeding and everything, I didn't gain any weight. I haven't gained or lost weight in the last 2 years. I don't know how. It's a miracle. Wow. Yeah. Oh, and I mean, wow. not that is necessarily like a success or whatever. It's how you define that. But just to know, it's very interesting.
As a as a case in point, as a fact. Yeah. Evidence, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so I like that. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, so I like that idea that the refeeding, like no restriction sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just picturing, Stephen, what was that Miyazaki movie we did?
Oh, Spirited Away, when those pigs are eating and those people are eating and they turn to pigs.
Yep. Like I'm just picturing Spirited Away, but I know how that makes me feel.
Yeah.
Right.
So that doesn't
sure.
So that doesn't have anything to do with the narrative that we grew up that this food is bad, that this food is good. That's actually listening to your body. If I had McDonald's like on you know, the Super Size Me movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He actually ate McDonald's for 30 days and then felt like SHI double hockey sticks. Right?
Right.
Like he felt terrible. So, you know, I could see that, and that happens also when we go on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes there's that thing in the back of your mind, like, oh, I couldn't, oh, I shouldn't, oh, I couldn't, but then that goes away, and you're with your family around the table, the Italian food or grilled food or whatever, and you're just like, let it all go. Then we always come back and then recalibrate,
right?
And that's not always guilt and shame based. That's more just like, I feel kind of like awful because so I guess, is that more listening to your body, like
I think so,
allowing yourself and then listening to your body? So maybe,
absolutely,
dude, Stephen, maybe that, do you see what I mean? Like maybe that does do something.
It's this. So a couple of things that you said helped me, Mac, to I gotta tell you, the first time when you're like, stop dieting, I was like, that means that my brain just shuts off when it comes to food. But what you were just saying was this hunger cues and fullness cues, which I'm really curious about. Figuring out which foods satisfy you, you said. So that actually is like engaging my brain it sounds harder.
Yeah, I think.
Is it harder?
I think it's harder. Dieting? It's harder for a while.
Okay.
But it's also more in tune with yourself and kind of more rewarding because you're not just like following somebody else's plan and restricting. You're like getting to know yourself better.
Okay.
And going from that.
I want that for cool. Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it could be that I just don't trust myself.
That could be part of it too. I mean, that could be some stuff that comes up as you're doing this, right?
Yeah.
That could be some uncomfortable stuff.
I've eaten so many times way beyond my hunger cue.
Right.
Like that's a very familiar feeling to me.
Right.
I don't like it later, but is there a way for me to, because then I can't fall asleep.
Right.
I can't fit into my clothes. I'm injuring myself more when running, like those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like what intuitive eating is to know that you're going to feel that way later and not eat like 2 extra value meals at McDonald's because you know that about yourself. Is that right?
Right. Yes, exactly. So maybe just like taking a little like mindful moment to yourself to remind yourself that this will happen in the future. And maybe this is I should make a different choice. But sometimes go ahead and eat the 2 extra value meals once in a while, and that's okay too.
Okay.
Like it's being forgiving. It's being permissive as well.
Yeah,
In
I'm
balance.
wondering. Yeah, I'm wondering if going by McDonald's thinking it's bad draws us to it.
Well, it's like
I don't
this
know.
thing
Probably.
about like when a parent catches their kid smoking a cigarette and you have to smoke the whole pack.
Yes.
And I always thought, like, if that ever happened to me, I would be a cigarette addict. Then that my parents would have made me a cigarette because I like excess.
I would be so interested to see how the refeeding goes with you guys if you ever decide to try this.
Okay, yeah,
I would just be delighted. Anyway.
sure.
Oh man, two Gomers
Refeed.
two Gomers recalibrate. Well,
Oh,
bro, but we
goodness.
refeeded after the half marathon. Remember that Indian food delight?
Yeah, yeah.
No, but that was just for like a day, you know. I yeah, I just really like this idea of food's not good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know from my family of origin, just like you described at the beginning with your dad, Mac,
Mm.
is like I can remember from being a little kid, parents on diets.
Mm.
I can
Mhm.
remember I can remember saying as a kid, "Why are we eating chicken again?"
Yes.
Like, you know, I'm like a little kid, all I want is McDonald's. It's like, and I remember saying to my parents, "I'm not on a diet. I'm 10 or whatever. Like, why am
Yeah.
I being put through this?" So like maybe this is part of our American diet culture, is like it's like in our childhood, it's in our family of
Mm-hmm.
origin. It's like
Yeah.
we've always seen this stuff as bad.
Yeah.
Um, I remember my dad doing the cabbage soup diet,
Wow.
Okay.
100%. Like I
There you go.
remember we spilled a humongous vat of cabbage soup in our Chevy van.
Oh no.
Because he made a huge vat of it, maybe for somebody else. I don't know.
What was that
Uh,
beach diet? Something beach diet?
oh, South Beach.
South
Yeah.
Beach diet. I remember that book
Okay.
in our house. It's and here's what I will say. Just like you approached us with this, I don't
Mhm.
blame anybody. My
No.
parent, because it
No.
sounds
Nope.
like, and this is what I
Totally
got from
not.
the book
No,
and
no.
other things that I've written. It's like you're there again. There's so much grace in this because it's a culture that we have grown up in.
Yes.
Um,
Right.
that kind of really took hold in like the 60s and 70s and just had its grip on the US since then.
Yes.
Which is that you can make a couple changes by not eating bad stuff and you can lose weight and look like you've always wanted to for the rest
Mhm.
of your life.
Exactly. It all of that, our families of origin, the
Mm-hmm.
society that we grow, it just shapes our view of food and bodies, right? We
Mm-hmm.
can't
Mm-hmm.
get away from it unless
Mm-hmm.
we try really hard, right? To see the other side of it. Yeah.
The thing
Yeah.
that you said first, the other thing that really is popping for me is this thing that you said to your husband, which was the goal of this for you wasn't to lose weight. And that
Yes.
seems like it was kind of the turning point, or the that was a lot different for you,
Yes.
which is also
Definitely.
maybe a place that I'm not feeling at home in yet, because that's always been what it is.
Of course, that's always the goal, right? So
Mm-hmm.
within, yeah, in like I said, in the culture, in the society, you have to be thin. You're always wanting to lose weight because that's what the diet culture promotes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how you signal to everyone else that you're healthy or that you're
Mm-hmm.
morally virtuous, right? Is by
Mm.
your thinness. Um, you Society tells you that you should be spending the money and the time and the energy on shrinking your body.
Mm.
Like it's just that's the socially acceptable thing to do, right? So to kind of buck that is really difficult. It takes a long time to get your mind around it.
Did that happen right away for you? How long did that take for you to
Probably about
embrace?
probably about a year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So it makes
it's real
sense that I'm
tough.
not there right now, I guess, right?
No,
It's just
yeah,
like
It's
Okay.
uncomfortable for the
Uh-huh.
first while, for sure it is. But then I found, once I started kind of opening my mind up to those ideas, like that all bodies are good regardless of their size, and their health status, regardless of that, they're good as well, and they're deserving of kindness and dignity. And yeah, kind of the more like media and books and whatever I consumed around that, the easier it became to accept my own body the way it is, right? Yeah. And to not want to lose weight, to know that I didn't need to lose weight in order to be better.
Yeah.
Wow. That sounds like a really peaceful place to be.
It is.
And you feel like you're there? I mean, I'm really curious.
Yeah, I do feel like I'm there.
Wow.
There are things that come up still.
Sure.
That challenge that, but so far I've always been able to get back to that place, and it is really nice. Yeah. And I've started to be able to like stand up to myself, to my family of origin, or whatever, to kind of to spread the message that all bodies are okay, and this is why, and like this is some of the research behind it, and so that's kind of been good too. Yeah.
Okay.
That's really awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. I just think I guess as we've been thinking about this for the last couple weeks, thinking about recording with you, I've been taking stock of like the amount of times we get together and feel bad about eating, like holidays where it's like, you know what, don't make that special thing this year because I'm on a diet. Right? You know what I mean? Like think about Steven, like think about the time we did no carb Thanksgiving.
Oh,
remember that?
Oh no.
Remember that, bro?
Come on. I mean, first of all, that's just dumb, but also
that was
like
so dumb.
why would we choose? But it is, I take your point, Anthony. It's like the relationship with food is so black and white or unhealthy in that way that it affects gatherings, it affects relationships, it affects special times, celebrations. I really see all that, and I just don't see how it worked for me.
It can really suck the joy and the pleasure and the fun out of eating and out of moving as well.
Sure.
And I don't know, and maybe it won't work for you, and that's okay. But it's something to think about.
Here's the thing that draws me to it most, Mackenzie, is seeing how happy you are.
Thanks.
So like, which is the goal, right? Contentment with your life and who you are, healthy relationships, not only with people, but with the world around you. Appreciation for other people and where they're at. And so then like me shrinking, I loved it that you said that, because it's not losing. It's like, that's like a net. You're like phrasing that in a way that sounds negative, to lose weight. I never thought of it before.
You should be able to take up space as a person, right? Your body and your ideas and your values and your personality, you shouldn't have to shrink that to fit some sort of societal box.
Sure. Which might be different 10 years from now or 20 years from now or a century ago. Yeah, the practicalities maybe are what freak me out.
Okay, that's fair.
Even Anthony, you said like when you saw, oh, no diet, great. You said this before we started recording.
Yeah, I listened to a couple podcasts on the way, or like this last week about this, and that's my 5-wing. I gotta learn and research, and I was just like, dude, I want to go to, I want to do the refeeding now. Let's go. But it is a cool thought experiment, and you're so inspirational to us right now. I love it.
Thank you.
The thought experiment of being comfortable in your body, like even taking 5 minutes to like breathe and think about what that would feel like, to feel no shame, and then so that first of all would be amazing, and then to feel a completely healthy relationship with food,
right,
is as another thought experiment, where somebody brings in baked goods to work,
Mhm.
and instead of being like, "Oh, I couldn't," but then eating McDonald's on the way home, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like because you said no, but then you're like, "Well, I'm still hungry."
Yeah. And now you're by
And
yourself. So you
yeah,
Or
can
I'm
do
gonna
it.
rebel against that decision I made earlier, or I'm gonna reward myself for that decision that I
right.
made
Right.
earlier.
And so it's
Yeah.
not
Right.
honoring the person that made this cool thing out of love.
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron talks about that often with people at school, is the amount of times people bring in special treats. I
Mm.
mean, there's a whole Seinfeld episode about it actually with Elaine, but where people bring in special treats and nobody eats them because
Right.
everybody. This is me at work too. Everybody's watching their weight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like you bring in our fun family recipe, nobody eats it, and that like feels really bad for the person that made it.
Mm-hmm.
Of
Yeah, I didn't think
course.
of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Um, I feel like for me, this is kind of still, even though I read the book a couple months ago, I feel like I've been thinking about this for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Having you on kind of brought it back into my life, and I've been thinking about it and struggling with it. And like, aren't restrictions good? Is one thing I've been thinking about. Like, if there were no traffic lights, everybody would crash, and there's that like societal. We can't all not have restrictions. It would be anarchy. But also
like Outback
personally,
Steakhouse, no rules, just right.
right, exactly. But also like personally, could I release some unhealthy restrictions on food without then just going nuts in other areas of my life? I mean, there's a reason why people have to have restrictions on their alcohol consumption or smoking cigarettes or other things. Like I guess one thing that I'm worried about is like I restrict myself from sitting on the couch by going running.
Right.
There are rules I set on my life. I think those are good, but I'm not sure if that fits with the concept of how this movement looks at restrictions. Does that make any sense? I could
Yes.
cut this out if this is just all
No,
ridiculous stuff, but
it does. And that's really interesting. I think this is like it's pretty specific to food, but also movement. So
right. Okay.
what you're saying about those rules around like anti-couch sitting time or going running
Mm-hmm.
is I'm not sure how that fits with it, to be honest.
Okay.
But if that works for you, keep freaking doing it. Like that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
I think
intrigued. That's all I know. I'm really intrigued.
okay.
Can you maybe give I'm sure other listeners are intrigued right now.
Okay.
Is there a place for people to start learning more about this, or is there a first step you would suggest in moving toward this and moving out of diet culture?
Yes. So the intuitive eating book that you had mentioned, there's also there's a book called Anti-Diet by Christy Harrison. But if you're not wanting to read an entire book, just look up Christy Harrison Anti-Diet on Google. She's a good website, just kind of summarizes a few points.
Great.
And there's also the F-It Diet by Caroline Dooner, which is also good.
Okay.
So
The
those are
F-It
some
diet.
starting. Yeah. That's where I got the term refeeding. I love it. Yeah, so those are some good starting points. And there's some really good podcasts out there and Instagram accounts if you just search like anti-diet. There's some really good anti-diet dietitians as well that you can follow. And they, of course, know the research and everything behind it. So
right.
that's always helpful to know that it's coming from a place of science and not just somebody's, imagination. So yeah. I would start following those folks.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Anthony, any other thoughts about this before we close up?
Yeah, man. I'm just thinking about sort of the insanity. Like the word insanity kind of kept coming to me, which is that for 15 years we've been doing the same sort of cycle, and isn't that insanity, right? I mean, we also did insanity, didn't we? Do insanity?
We did do insanity for a little while.
But it's like
Dawn
this
T,
yo-yo.
I think it was.
It's the yo-yo, and it seems like this would be a cool way to learn to maybe step out of that, because I know more than anything, I would rather have a healthy relationship with food and be comfortable and at peace, in my own skin.
Yep.
For sure.
And so, I think this has been really helpful, especially like I said, the speaking to yourself with grace, like the way that you would never speak to anybody else. You still talk to yourself that way. So changing that is a big one. Awesome. The gentle eating. I love that.
For sure. Anthony, you brought up just a couple of really, really salient points right at the end here. Is one of the things is the yo-yoing, right? Like you say, you guys have kind of been doing this for 15 years on and off, up and down. And that has a name. It's called weight cycling. And it's actually really harmful to your health. Like that is maybe even more harmful than just staying at a sustained weight, even if that's a higher weight. So that's like something to consider.
Losing a lot of weight,
losing and gaining, losing and gaining,
and for you physically.
It is bad for you, like for your blood pressure, your heart rate, your cholesterol, your insulin resistance, your stress, your mental health. It's really bad for that. And also just the underlying point is that dieting works for almost no one. So it's not just you guys, it's not just me, it's like 95% of people, and the diet industry knows that. So just it's not just us, right?
So you've got like a billions and billions of dollar industry built off of stuff that doesn't work.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty convincing.
I don't know.
And I can't deny that it's been a yo-yo for me. Sometimes you just have to come back anecdotally to your own experience.
Yeah.
I believe you when you say the 95% it doesn't work, because I don't really know many people where a diet has worked and stuck for their whole lives.
No.
And like you're saying, Anthony, 15 years, we're still trying to figure it out. And that's just on the podcast. Right. Before then, we were on our own trying to figure it out. And it's just the bad food stuff is still there. The guilt and the shame are still there.
Yeah.
In our mid 40s. Like, so something about that's not working. Maybe we should try something else.
Yeah.
That's getting out of the insanity, bro.
Yep.
Something to think about. Well, thank you for having me on.
No problem.
Awesome.
Nation, we want to hear from you. What you think about all this? Is it are you feeling a little bit like me where it's a little culture shock? That's what it feels like. Okay, I identified it. It's like when I go to a different country and I'm like, you're eating what? Or you're driving on what side of the road? That's what it's feeling like right now. Not bad.
Yeah.
Just shock. Nation, we want to hear what you think about this. There's a lot of great ways to contact us. The best way is go to our Instagram, 2Gomers, and you can find our link tree in the bio with a ton of links there and ways that you can contact us. You could also call us or leave us a text. Is that what you would say? Leave us a text? Do people say that? Send us a text. Text us. That number is
608-622-7669. That's 608 NBA Pony.
Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe or follow us on whatever podcast app you're listening to right now. If you want more of the Gomers, hey, go back to those 10th anniversary episodes that we've been talking so much about. At the end of 2018, you can get a taste of the Gomers figuratively there, and then you can go back to the beginning. Subscribe on the bonus disc. That's our Patreon, where you can get all sorts of extra episodes, including new episodes of Perfect Movie every month and other episodes depending on what level you give. Thank you to Davis for our music, Jason and Eric for our graphics, Adam, our webmaster, Annie, our social media guru, and thank you so much, Mackenzie, for guesting. Thanks for sending that email, for being bold, for answering my rhetorical question.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. Thanks, you guys, for having me.
I think it was a great app.
Super fun, man. Thanks so much, Mac. And remember, everybody, if we can do this, if we can overcome, if we can learn new things, talk to awesome new people, you can too.